Welcome you guys to white paper lecture number 2. Let's kind of begin and see where we can go to help you get less confused about what you have to do in this course. So first of all, I always get the question, what exactly is a white paper? I know we started going over, I gave you an overview, but it still seems to be confusing for a lot of students. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking through what that looks like, what it means. And we're also going to talk about a concept called IMRAD, which we've touched on before, and why particularly we're talking about the genre of a white paper for this particular class. We want to talk about the different types of definitions of what a white paper is because it's used for multiple different things. Originally, it was a government report. Now it's broadly seen as a marketing tool for businesses, nonprofits. And the primary thing that you need to remember is that it is intended for a broad audience. So if you are a science major, if you're an engineer, then this audience is a slightly different audience than what you're doing in the other class. So one of the things that we want to continue to think through is how can we make our concepts and our research available to other students, other audiences. All right, so one of the things about a white paper is that it is often persuasive, in which you have an idea that you want other people to adopt. You might be promoting a position or a product or an idea. It is very typically research intensive, right? So research intensive means that you're reporting facts rather than opinions. That's an important thing to remember. See if we can't get it to go to the next. All right, what exactly is a white paper? Let's continue delving into that a little bit more. This is a quote from Rasmussen University that I liked. The typical purpose or intent of a white paper is first to educate and inform. Okay, so that seems kind of broad. White paper not only educate, but also promote a certain position or product or propose a solution for a specific problem. That's very relevant to this particular class because many of you who are in senior design are proposing a solution for a specific problem. Those of you who aren't are still proposing a solution or researching a solution for a specific problem in the tech industry. White papers are often used by businesses to sell products. Therefore, it's usually typically an external audience, so someone who's not in your field. Okay. I know I'm hitting that really hard and I've said it a lot, but it tends to be a sticking point for many students. Here's another definition that we come across. A white paper is a deeply researched report on a specific topic that presents a solution to a problem within an industry. Again, that's relevant to what we're talking about. We have an industry of various kinds in this particular class. It might be marketing, it might be engineering, it might be English, it might be history. Deeply researched is the really important part here. It needs to show that you have looked at the problem from many different sides, you've looked at solutions, you've come upon one that's the best one, and maybe that's an idea. If you're doing secondary research and you're researching all the different sources that are out there on your field, it helps to find a theme, right? So like when you first encounter it, which is probably still where you're in, you are overwhelmed with the amount of information and you have to find a way to narrow that down, right? Okay. Continuing on that vein, another quote that you might find about what is a white paper: an excellent white paper uses a combination of data-rich writing, data-rich again, graphics and design to capture the reader's attention. Most white papers use headings and subheadings to divide the paper into manageable sections. That's really important, and one of those things that you want to be really good at when you go into the world of business or the world of engineering or the world of English or wherever world you're going into is being able to communicate. This is the way a white paper works, is to find your audience and to communicate with them using graphics and design and charts and graphs so that they get it, right? So that something that they may not be familiar with, you are able to make it manageable, make it digestible, and help them get it. Okay, so key feature of white paper, lots of visuals. Here we put it together side by side, so you can kind of get the difference between a white paper on the left and a tech science research report, which some of you are doing in your other class. If you're taking senior design, you have to come up with a research report, and you're like, why am I doing the same thing? You might be using the same data, but you are doing a different thing. On the left with the white paper, we might have an introduction and an executive summary and background because we have research heavy stuff. We have a solution and a body that explains that, conclusion and references, right? What are the references I use? What are the sources I use? Whereas over on the tech side, you might have also an introduction, methods, results, discussions, and conclusions. It's going to look and feel a little bit different in what you are actually reporting. And again, keeping in mind that the audience that you're talking to is a totally different audience. So you are talking on the right side to people in your audience, engineers particularly. On the left side, you are talking to people outside of your field. Okay, so it's either marketing for business or nonprofit. They might have an interest in what you're talking about, but they may not know all the specifics that an expert necessarily would. So that's what's really important, to keep that in mind, that it's different. Some more information here, similar. Well, I guess I've already talked through that, so let's keep going. Okay. Oh, I'm going backwards. That's why. Okay. Next thing we want to talk about is something that you hear a lot in the scientific field, and that is the term IMRAD. Okay, so IMRAD is an acronym that's supposed to help you remember how this thing works. Introduction, methods, results, discussion for the purpose of this, which includes a conclusion. So I want to talk through what that might look like. The introduction, why was the study undertaken? What was the research question, the tested hypothesis, or the purpose? These are important to explain to your audience. How did this thing come about and why am I doing it? The methods, some people get this section really intuitively and a lot of people don't. So I want to talk a second about this. This is where, when, and how was the study done? Right? So where, how, and when was the study done? If you're doing primary research, what materials were used? What was included in the study group? How did you go about finding participants for your survey? You want to make sure that if you're talking about a survey, if you do a survey, that you have explained how that happened. Who are these people? Are they, your 10 cousins? That's not as credible as explaining where you might have gotten them otherwise, right? Unless you're studying something relevant to your content, of course. So what were the specifications? Basically, how did you go to point A and point B in this research? The results section here, the question that you're asking here, what were the answers that you found? What answers was found to the research question that you describe in the methods? What did the study find? Was the tested hypothesis true or not true? And remember that true or not true problems are just as relevant as things that you hope to come true and then you test them and they are true. Sometimes you test them and they aren't. And that's also something you might be reporting in your white paper. Hey, we tried to make this thing and it didn't work. This 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 is what worked, right? So you might also be reporting results that were failures. That is also a thing. Discussion section. So there are differences here between the results and the discussion. The discussion is, what might this answer refer? I got the results. What does it mean? What does it matter? What's the significance? How does it fit in with what other researchers have found? Is it different? Is it the same? What might there be for future research people, the students that come next semester or the scientists that come next semester? Where should they continue researching this? What does it mean? What is the significance of this thing? Tell about this in detail. Okay, so again, white paper contents in this class, we're going to have IMRAD. We're going to have the I in the information is the introduction, issue, problem. Okay. The M, the methods section, you're going to have a design overview, the solution, the features and components of it, and perhaps the construction of it. So again, keeping in mind that you're going to include visuals. So if you are creating something, make sure you're taking pictures along the way so that you can see the progress of it. Make sure that you are keeping screenshots if you're creating a software. Make sure you're keeping results if you're doing a survey. So that's the M section. Again, IMRD. R stands for the results. Okay, so what's the results, the function, the testing? How do what are those two things that we're going to include? Okay, and the discussion part, the project management, like how did it go, right? And also you're going to have conclusions and recommendations. You might have some recommendations for a future class, a future student, a future researcher. Okay, so again, we're going to have all of these sections as we move along. Typically, if you have a design overview, which is sometimes called a solution, if you started with a problem solution or problem statement, which many of you in the science and engineering sections do, then you're going to have a solution statement, right? The problems, and then there's a solution. If it went well and things went as you hoped or expected in whatever you were trying to do. If you were doing research, that also would be a problem and a solution too, right? The problem is this, I'm going to research it by going into these databases and finding 20 or 30 sources, and I'm going to look at what they did. Here's a solution potentially. So you're going to have to do some testing one way or the other, whether it's testing your primary or testing your secondary thoughts to figure out what you're coming up with. So again, these sections are going to be big. They're going to be important. They're going to explain to your audience in very clear terms and ways they can understand what it is that you found and the problems you encountered and the discussion or results and significance of what you found. Okay, as always, this wraps up lecture number 2. Next lecture number 3 and 4 will go over so a few things more in detail and also some student samples so that you can get a feel for what's coming next. But again, these are intended as an overview for you to, as you're thinking about how am I going to do this? It's the middle of the semester. What's next? How do I make it work? A reminder to keep data points, keep all of your information. Also keep instruction that didn't go well, right? So keep pictures. If I've had people had a design issue and something blew up or something fell apart, take pictures of that. You're going to document that as well because it's a solution not to do it this way. Okay. All right. Have a fabulous week.